Hello, year 3 and 4. It's me, Mr. A, back with story time for another day in another room. And Michael Morpurgo's The Amazing Story of Adolphus Tips. Right then. Wednesday, March 15th, 1944. Mum said this morning that she had a big surprise for me. I thought she was just trying to cheer me up. First she said Barry and I could stay away from school today, so we knew something was up. Then she cooked a special Sunday lunch, even though it wasn't Sunday, and roast chicken and apple crumble. The table was laid with all the best china and her best tablecloth, and she'd done her hair and put powder and lipstick on. Even Uncle George looked less like an old scarecrow than usual. He slicked down his hair and put a tie on. Grandfather wasn't there and no one would tell me where he was. Mum just tapped her nose at me and smiled mysteriously. Barry said he knew what it was all about, but he wasn't going to tell me. So I pretended I didn't care anyway, which upset him a bit, which I shouldn't have. He was only trying to keep the surprise, and when the surprise came it was supreme. Just supreme. When we heard the dogs barking outside, I knew then it would be Adi. I was sure of it. I ran outside, but it wasn't an American Jeep. It was a car. Grandfather's old Ford, still dusty from being kept in the barn. Someone was waving at me. I couldn't see who it was at first. Then he opened the door and got out, but he wasn't wearing an American uniform. It was a British uniform, with stripes on the right way up. Dad! Dad in his beret! Dad was home! Hello, Lil, he said. Remember me? I ran to him and we hugged there in the farmyard with Uncle George's dog chewing at the tyres of Grandfather's car. Then Mum did her hugging and cried a lot, and even Uncle George looked as if he was crying too as he shook Dad's hand. When I looked round a few minutes later to introduce Barry, he'd gone. He was there sitting beside me at the lunch, but he wasn't his usual chatty self, and he didn't eat much either, which wasn't at all like him. It was the best lunch. Dad ate as if he hadn't eaten at all in 2 years he'd been gone. He said right at the start he wasn't going to say a word about Africa and Italy and the army. He only wanted to know about home, about the farm and the evacuation and how we'd all managed. We told him everything about the move, about Adi and Harry and about the Slapton Sands Hotel and Tips. He said how sorry he was and kissed me, which was nice because I knew he'd never really liked Tips all that much. He did try to talk to Barry, but Barry had gone all shy and quiet and wouldn't say a word. After a while Barry asked to be excused and went out. I couldn't understand why he was behaving like that until Mum said it. He lost his father, she told Dad quietly, in the RAF over Dunkirk, wasn't it, Lil? I felt so bad, so stupid not to have realised. I had my father back, but Barry could never have his back. I went out and found him sitting, looking at the sea. He didn't want to talk. He didn't want to look at me even. He did want me to stay though, I could tell. I sat down beside him and we said nothing to one another for a long time, which is what only true friends can do. Barry cheered up that evening, but I wasn't that happy because Mum told me I had to move out of our room so Dad could sleep there. I'm sleeping on the sofa in the sitting room until Dad goes. He says he's got 5 days leave. It's not so bad though, because with any luck I'll get to stay up late every night. They can't exactly make me go to bed, can they, if I'm down here? And anyway, it's not so bad. I've got the fire to look at and to keep me warm. I know I shouldn't say this. I shouldn't even have thought it, but I did. When Dad arrived and I saw it wasn't an American Jeep, I remember I felt a little disappointed. When I saw it was Dad, I was happy, but I was sad too at the same time because it wasn't Adi. That's wrong, I know it is, but I am pleased that Dad's back here and alive and well. I've missed him so much. I know that now he's come home, we're a real family again. He's thinner than he was and he's lost some of his hair, but I won't tell him that. He wouldn't like it. Monday, March 20th, 1944. I had to say goodbye to Dad before I went off to school this morning. He walked Barry and me to the end of the lane to meet the school bus, with Barry wearing his beret. He loves Dad's beret. Dad was in his uniform again, the first time he'd put it back on since the day he'd arrived, and I was very proud of him when the other children saw him. He's got 3 stripes on his arm, which means he's a sergeant and can tell other soldiers what to do. I think I didn't cry because I was even more proud than I was sad. He told me I had to be good. I'll be home again soon, Lil, he said. You look after your mum for me and be good. The war will be over before you know it. Barry handed him his beret. Dad ruffled his hair and we got on the bus. We ran to the back seat. Dad was getting smaller and smaller in the distance. Soon, all too soon, he was gone altogether. Then I did cry. But I looked hard out of the window so that no one would know. It's been so strange having Dad back home. Somehow there didn't seem to be a proper place for him in the house. He spent most of the time with Grandfather and Uncle George on the farm, mending all the machinery, and a whole afternoon tinkering with the tractor engine with Barry, who loves getting his hands oily. Once he went off drinking in the pub with Uncle George and the others in the Home Guard, a sort of welcome home party I think it was, but we couldn't go of course because we're not allowed in pubs. Mum was so happy when he first came home, and then I'd see her gazing at him out the kitchen window, and I knew she was thinking. As the days passed and Dad's leave got shorter and shorter, we were all thinking the same thing. We didn't laugh like we had before. We were just waiting for the moment he had to leave, so we couldn't enjoy him being there as much as we should have done. It hung like a shadow over us. Now he's gone, and it's as if he's never been home at all. I'm going to pray for him every night he's away, starting right now. I won't miss once, cross my heart and hope to die. Wednesday, March 29th, 1944. When we go to school now, we see more and more soldiers. Mostly they're Yanks, but some of them are ours too. We see them in lorries and in tanks. We see them marching along. They're putting up whole villages of tents all over the place. Every time I see a black soldier, I look to see if it's Adi or Harry. I haven't seen Adi for ages now. I expect they've been doing lots more of their landing exercises. I know he's alright because Uncle George said he saw him only yesterday on patrol with Harry along the perimeter wire. Uncle George said he'd asked them to come and visit us again. I hope they do. I really hope they do. Thursday, April 20th, 1944. The day of the Great Hot Dog Feast. That's what I'm calling today. Barry and I were running up the lane coming back from school. We were racing one another and I was winning as usual when we heard a car coming up behind us. It was Adi and Harry in their Jeep. They said they were just coming to visit. Harry was carrying a bunch of daffodils. They gave us a lift home, which was good fun, but what happened next was supreme. They were sausages really, but they called them hot dogs and they brought dozens of them. I've never seen so many sausages in my life. They said you just stick them between slices of bread and pour on tomato ketchup, and they brought that along too. So we had a great hot dog feast, all of us together in the kitchen, and in the middle of the table were the daffodils Adi and Harry had given Mum. Barry said it was the best meal of his life. Alright, now we're going to leave it there until tomorrow. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again. Take care, have a great day.